Welcome back. We've got Pashupati Advani with us right here in the studio as well this morning. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Pashupati, you've just, come back from some time in the US. Given how everything is so interconnected right now, what's the mood on the street? Are we heading in for a huge liquidity outflow from some of the emerging markets?
Well, what I am seeing is severe protectionism in the US, which is hurting the whole world, starting with China, and then obviously the repercussions for everyone else. On the plus side, a lot of people are looking at shifting their manufacturing facilities. A lot of American businesses are looking at shifting their manufacturing facilities out of China, and they are looking at India as a possible alternative. But they're also looking at places like Vietnam and Thailand, which seem to be a lot more accommodating. The good thing for us is that oil prices are now heading downwards again, which is good because Trump in the White House likes to see oil lower, but because he's trying to, I think, break the Middle East cartel, so by doing so. But despite that, I think that this protectionism is not good for the world, and how we deal with it is going to be really key to what goes forward. And right now we are in election mode, so we're kind of in limbo, so we're not able to react one way or the other. We're just floating. And I don't know, how long we're going to be able to get away with floating, because there is a lot of dynamic happening right now, and we need to be part of it.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what is it that we're staring at? We're not falling as much as US markets, but yeah, we've fallen quite a fair bit nonetheless from the top. You're in the thick of earnings, which are not all that great. They're at best in line so far on a net average. And then you've got that big overhang of elections as well. So net, what is it that we're staring at? Are we looking at a 5 to 10% kind of decline? Because, a stable government is something that the market was already working with at the peak point. Or do you think it's going to be just another day, the election event?
No, I think that, what is coming out in the last, for a long time, the pro BJP people have said we're going to get 300 plus seats, maybe even 350. The naysayers were saying less than 200. So it looks like what's coming out of the sort of so-called non-poll polls is that looks like the NDAs are not going to be able to get the majority, and that's why market seems to have quietened down in the last couple of days after the last round of UP elections. So I think that is actually making some of the more speculative FIIs take some money out off the table, because they don't want to make such a big bet. And whereas before they were more convinced that there were going to be a stable government, we're now looking at maybe not immediate government, and therefore horse trading going on for 2, 3, 4 weeks, which also will push. As I said, we need to be taking trade decisions, and we're not going to be able to take them if we are in political turmoil. So it's just that where we are as of now, given May 23rd and maybe some time after, is going to put some pressure on our economy.
And what's the sense that you're getting when it comes to the domestic flows as well? Do you believe that that is going to continue to see a trend of petering off, much like the FII?
Well, again, people who are in SIPs are suddenly looking at their balance sheets and saying, we're not really making any money. And, when you start having that, then you have people saying, hey, why am I doing this? And then they're now looking at, why wasn't I in FDs in the beginning? Because even if they were being in debt mutual funds, the debt mutual funds have also taken hits because of some of the bad sort of things that they've bought. So, it's a tough space, and it's really like, where do we put our money? And those who have money don't know what to do with it, and those who don't have it are having to borrow at higher rates. And we're seeing what's happening in the NBFC space. It's hurting them all.
Let's talk about earnings as well, since the other caveat here is that while we may be seeing record levels, earnings are not catching up, and that's a further case for perhaps seeing a fall going forward, particularly post-election.
Well, the big companies are, big seems to be beautiful in this cycle, so I think they are doing okay. The smaller companies are having, terrific pulls because they're not able to make their business models work. And so you will see some consolidation, but what is sad is that the sort of MSME sector is really getting squeezed because they're not getting bank financing. The banks don't want to deal with them. The NBFCs that were giving them financing don't have money, and their customers are also suffering. They're sort of the traders, the small traders, they're all off the street. So, and everybody seems to be postponing purchase decisions, which is not good for any economy. I will say though, this is a trend that is happening globally. It's not just in India. So, I think it's a sort of revision of sort of global values which are coming through, because you're seeing Europe is in a terrible state. The US also, they're talking about good employment, but aside from Silicon Valley, the rest of the US is sort of floating along, and you go to the Midwest US, it's quite difficult. So, and of course South America is in smithereens, so, we don't know what's going on. But I think this is not a phenomenon that is restricted to India. It's a global phenomenon.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what has been your market strategy? Have you been a buyer of late? Selectively, albeit?
No, again, I think that there are values, but then they're going to be longer term and they're going to be speculative. I don't think, you can take a, I mean, obviously, our market has always sort of said you have to be a stock picker to be able to do it. But I think if you look at under-leveraged or unleveraged balance sheets, those are the ones to look at. Companies that have good businesses that are unleveraged is a great place to be. Now, how?
Like?
Well, those are the tough ones to find.
Did you like cement in the past?
Yeah, I've liked cement in the past, but cement is another leveraged industry.
Yeah.
However, I think that there is some, stability in the sense that some projects are still getting done, some roads are still getting built. So cement offtake is still there, even though and prices have inched up a little bit. So I think that's going to have.
Mid-cap pharma as well.
Well, mid-cap pharma, I think the whole pharma industry is having to relook itself because of the fact that the US has been very, very rough on all the inspections and things. So those companies in the mid-cap that have been able to pass are going to do very well, but then they have to make the capex to be able to make sure that they pass the inspections.
So, you touched upon the NBFC mess. Let's just talk about that a little bit more. Do you feel that worries have completely receded? It doesn't seem like it, given that, we do have some news or the other still that's coming out every other day.
Well, the challenge is that, you keep having these black holes, whether it's a Jet Airways of 8,000 crores or, whatever, you've seen a list every 3-4 days. The question is, where is the money coming from to pay for this?
Sure.
And, so obviously the banks have NPAs, they pull back money from the easiest place, which is the NBFCs. The NBFCs are therefore mismatched and having to borrow money at huge premiums. So the problem is that, the whole system, I don't see where the money is coming from, where the water is coming from to quench everyone's thirst. So, that's the challenge that I'm seeing. So, even though people are optimistic about the banking space and about the NBFC space, yes, long term, I think it's fine. It's a growth engine for India. But short term, how much more consumer credit can we give?
And
what within the earnings season so far has stood out for you? I mean, the positives, of course.
Well, of course, the biggest brother has done very well, Reliance. I mean, even though it's off today, but I think that it's actually, proved that it's sort of smashing through everything. All its margins are doing better.
So if it were to fall further along with the market, do you buy more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that you have to be in because it is representative of India Inc. I mean, it's now touching B2C, it's in the B2B space, the refinery, all its margins seem to be doing well, and they seem to be knocking everyone dead in the telecom space. So I think that they're all moving fine, and there seems to be some deleveraging also at the subsidiary level at Reliance, which is good. But apart from that, I think obviously pharma stocks have come off the bottoms, so they are sort of beginning to stabilize, but still not there. IT, I'm not particularly bullish on simply because I think the business model is changing, and I've seen when I was in the US this time, I saw a lot of stuff happening on AI, and I think that's going to affect the way IT companies work in the future. And I don't know
to catch up.
No, I don't know whether ours are able to move to that space that
They're
fast.
Definitely talking about
They're
digital
trying.
and upping their game on that front. Okay, you had also spoken about interest in, say, logistics, fertilizers. Are there any other pockets that you find interesting?
Well, the domestic consumption story is a good story, even though the public companies have actually given muted guidance. I think that, on the one hand, that's one issue. The other hand is that branded goods are getting into the rural areas. So, it's a nice
wide net, if you could narrow
No, but you need the logistics of getting to that. You talked about logistics. I think the logistics of being able to provide, the last mile. And, we've got a pretty strong and robust domestic market for most things. So I think that, if we're able to ride on that, that's great. I think the answer is if we stop importing Chinese mobile phones, I think we'll be a lot better. And but I think people
what about the ones assembled in China?
Well, what I'm seeing is people are delaying purchase decisions. So I think that's going to help. And oil prices going down are going to help also. So we will see our share of money. It's just that right now, so if you're in the market, you can wait a month. I mean, we'll know by the end of May, right?
And what are you expecting to see by the end of May? Is stability or some
no, actually,
surprises?
What I'm hearing hearing is that it's not going to be clean cut for the NDA up front. So then, you know, hopefully they will make the government because they'll be the largest party. But, you know, who knows? You know, there's a lot of anti-Modi fervor from all the other parties. The question is, you know, if the NDA gets to 240, 250, can they get over 272? Normally the answer would be yes, but stranger things have happened. So, you know, and then I think we're in for troubled times if we have, you know, a motley crew of parties. But, you know,
from a policy standpoint, though, do you feel that there is conviction in wanting the BJP back, or there is still an open mind as to that?
No, I think, you know, there's certain pockets of the electorate that want them, and there's certain pockets that are not wanting them. So I think the challenge is, we don't know what's going to happen. It's, you know, everything has been quiet, but it looks like, you know, given that Mayawati made a comment that I want to be Prime Minister, it means that something has happened in UP that has gone against the BJP.
For her to even say it.
For her to even say it, because she's, according to me, one of the most conservative politicians, because she's got, you know, she's had her troubles in the past, so she's been quiet through this whole campaign.
Okay, Pashupati, thank you for joining in from politics, markets, flows. We've discussed pretty much it all.